The title of this video is going to be the GOAT cold call script. Because
Ooh.
this cold call script, correct me if I'm wrong, you booked one meeting per day every time you used this script back in 2023.
Yeah, that's right. So I was a glorified SDR. My title was Chief Growth Officer. Three buddies and myself from my last company, startup, decided to go out on our own and go start our own tech company because that's the dream, right? Oh man, it was tough.
Yeah.
This was the script framework that I created out of like desperation. At this point, I had trained and managed hundreds of SDRs in my career before this point, but now I'm back to square one, representing a company that nobody knows, trying to just get business out of thin air. Like, this is as hard as it gets. Nobody knows you. We were in a brand new space in the AI space for customer support, and it was like, shoot, I got to figure something out. So I started testing every single LinkedIn guru's script, meaning I would literally go make dials, 1,000, 2,000 usually, and before I would get enough data to see if it worked or not. And I tested about 6 or 7 approaches, and this is what I landed on. It was a blended approach. I landed on this. There's a huge, huge caveat to who this works really well for and who this might need some more custom tailored like approach. If you're representing a product that is unique, that is like any tech company, usually any software company, what you do at IBM at, like, this is going to work well because this is really geared to hit that specific pain point that most tech companies and software companies solve for. But if you are in a super saturated space, let's even say a commodity, you sell insurance, real estate, maybe IT hardware, things that are very generic, and anyone who's doing it might look like the same person to your prospect, then there might have to be some tweaks to this script, but the general principles are the same.
Okay.
And they still work. So I'm happy to explain at the end of this video like how to differentiate, or if people want to contact me to like get into the details of it, by all means do so.
Well, I like that you said that because a lot of people will post on LinkedIn, going back to your LinkedIn guru point, they'll post on LinkedIn, this cold call script converted 70% of the time, but there's no context. Like, just because that script worked for you, it doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody, right? And it depends, like you said, if it is a specific offering or if it is a commodity. It's going to be way different.
So true. It's so true. And yeah, I'm a little bit tired of seeing all these guru posts of people who are like, this is the way to do it for everything. It's like, hang on a second. You worked at Salesforce. Like, yeah, right.
Yes. Yeah.
You know.
In the heyday. In the heyday.
Yeah, in the heyday. I'll say one other thing that really matters. When you're trying to decide, is my script working? Is it my tone? Which part of my script? There's one thing that comes before all of it, which is the quality of your data. This really matters. I mean, later this week, I'm going to be getting on JB Sales. If you don't know, it's also a great free resource. We're going to be doing cold call stuff too, and I know they are big on this. The first rule of cold calling is you got to have good numbers. You got to be able to get in touch with the person that you're trying to get in touch with. The best of the best cold callers will be useless if you give them bad data. And the most mediocre, general, average, par of the course callers with great data will be very effective and generate revenue.
That's why it's important when you are interviewing for an SDR role, you need to make sure you understand what the tech stack looks like. If they don't have like a Zoom info, how am I supposed to be successful if I'm calling random numbers I'm finding on Google? You need either direct dials. Most of the time, you need a cell phone number.
Yeah, totally.
All cell phones.
Yeah, there's some great companies that do that. But all right, let's say you're a new cold caller. Your number one challenge is probably going to be the call opener. And the beauty of this is that's where we start. So we can get right into it. I'm even happy to share it out a little bit, if that makes sense. But
everybody's always commenting. What's the opener?
Yeah.
What's the opener?
How do I start the call? So let's talk about that real quickly. Before we get into the words, let's talk about the tone. Tone is really important. If you cannot sound different, if you sound like the last 5 people who called this person, you're not going to be able to get through. You're just not. It's the way that our brains are wired. We know this from Nobel Prize winning psychology, the book Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow. They proved that our brains make decisions automatically. That's the pattern. Cold callers fall into that pattern all the time by accident based on how they sound. But there's a second way that our brain thinks, and that is not automatic. That's what we want to engage. And to engage that, you need a pattern interruption. And the pattern interruption is the way you sound. One of my all-time favorites, we'll cover this in a future video maybe, but like one of my all-time favorites is this guy, Andrel. I think you covered him once.
Oh, yeah.
He calls this prospect, Nancy, and she picks up the phone and he just goes, Nancy?
That's exactly how he said it, too.
It's like, what? Talk about a pattern interruption. It was beautiful. And then he goes, Nancy, it's Andrel. Don't try to rack your brain figuring it out. You don't know me. I don't know you. This is a cold call. Can I tell you why I'm reaching out to you today?
That's awesome. We're going to have to break that down in a future video, man.
Totally.
Yeah.
Now, my go-to call opener is somewhat similar. I always start with the prospect's first name. So if I'm calling you, it sounds exactly like this. Hey, Matt.
Hey, who's this?
Matt, it's Ronen Pessar here with RP Advisory. How have you been, man?
I'm doing all right. It's Friday. How you doing?
Doing really well. Thanks for asking. Look, I know no one likes getting a cold call, Matt, especially not on a Friday afternoon. I can keep it super brief, and then you can decide if you want to hang up on me. How does that sound?
Sounds good. You got a minute.
Hey, thanks for the shot. So that's the end of my permission-based opener. That's usually 15 seconds, 15 to 20 seconds. The reason I break it down specifically like that, where I go right into the person's name, is because very simply, and I'll just show you right here, what you're trying to do is get their attention. Hey, Matt. Hard stop. By the way, anyone could grab the script. It's free. The reason I do this is to get their attention from the second they pick up. I'm trying to break the pattern. This is what they're used to hearing. Hi, Matt. This is Ronen Pessar with RP Advisory. The reason for my call is that I wanted to know if you already have a way to do cold call training with your team so you could generate more appointments. Is this interesting or a good time for us to talk?
Click.
Hey, are you there?
Click.
Right, so most people bulldoze their way through and they sound like a robot. They sound like they're reading a script.
Now, Ronan, somebody commented on our last video. And I'll throw it up on the screen. The guy said that, this guy probably practiced that a million times to sound like that. And I was like, exactly. That's exactly what you need to do. You need to practice the script so the tonality and the delivery sounds natural.
Like, one of our all-time favorites, Alex Hormozi, says most skills only take about 10 to 15 hours to get good at.
There you go.
And with this, I don't even think it's that much. Probably if you give it 5 to 7 hours, if you legitimately did an hour, I know it sounds like a lot, an hour of practicing tone every day for a week, 5 hours, 1 hour a day, by the end of that week, you'd sound like an all-star. And you would never get hung up on again on a call opener. Ever. That's what I did. I took a weekend. I basically practiced the way I listened to exactly how someone else that I really liked was delivering this kind of an opener. And I tried to exactly match her tone. And I played it back and listened to it. And if it sounded at all not the same, I did it again and again and again and again and again. And I just kept doing it until it was an identical match. Once I got there, I could change it to my own version of it. And that's my recommendation. First copy, then alter it to make it yours. First steal something that works, then add in your personality, your infusion. I work right now with a client. I've been building out an SDR team for them. All 6 of the SDRs that we hired, who are now really great at cold calling, they all have different openers, but the same script. They'll have different tones because they have different personalities, and they all started with the same approach. Yeah, you cannot get into a cold call if you can't pass the first 15 seconds.
No. And I think a lot of the struggle here is a lot of folks that watch these videos, they are getting past the first 15 seconds, but then they're like, now what? Like, what am I saying next that will potentially get their interest? And maybe we could book a meeting because Ronan and I have to book, 15 qualified meetings a month. That's difficult on the phone. That's hard.
Yeah. This is going to be my favorite part of what we're about to do, and probably the most valuable part of this entire video that we're going to do. So here is where you're going to get tons of differing opinions. Some people will say just go in with a pitch. Some people will say hit them over the head with 3-4 value props at once and say, which one of those do you like? Other people will say ask open-ended questions, get friendly, and become conversational with them. I'm here to tell you that maybe that works. I know for myself, after experimenting with all of those approaches myself, what I found to work for me that led to 183 meetings last year while I was doing this about 1 to 2 hours a day.
At least.
A meeting a day. While only doing it 4 days a week, maybe an hour a day, it was very part-time for me. Also, which led to over $250,000 from zero in customers and then $3 million investment from VCs, was this approach. It's called the probe and the provoke.
Probe and provoke, the 2 Ps.
The probe and provoke. It's a 1-2 punch. And if done well, it really feels like, Muhammad Ali's rope-a-dope, or like one of the 1-2 punches that you'd see from the great all-time boxers. Mike Tyson, if you ever watch his HBO thing, which was really good, I liked it. He was excellent at this. He had his first punch, but then that blinded you because the second one was coming and would knock him out. But the beauty of this is we're not actually going to be boxing with the prospects. We're not actually hitting them. We're going to be trying to pull them into the call. We're going to use some psychology to do this. So let's talk about the probe. The probe is all about today, right now, in your world. If you're looking for a really good entry-level book on sales discovery, read Gap Selling. It's one of the best simple approaches to how to identify pain. But I use that concept, and a good friend of mine who used to be a trainer with him, Ryan Scalera, gave me this idea years ago. And the idea is this: what does your current day look like? Can I identify in today's day something that is really annoying, painful, or a bad business outcome that is happening all the time due to the way that you're doing what you do? Ideally, something I can solve, right? Currently. This is all about today. And here's how I set it up. I'll show you guys the framework, and then I'll deliver it, because it's really important how it's delivered. So here's the probing question. Do they have a business problem you solve? I sure as hell hope so. The goal is to identify a pain and what the issue is that pain will cause. So again, with this company I was working for, Stylo, here's how I would do it. We were a sentiment analysis tool, AI, that reads emotions in text. This is when AI was just starting to explode, like a year and a half ago. And what we did is we plugged into all their support tickets to say, look, if you get thousands of these a day, wouldn't you want to start with the ones where the customer's hair's on fire? Because everyone knows a really angry customer is about to be a previous customer and your competitor's new customer. So let's jump on that first, right? Wouldn't it be really cool if you could spot that? Well, that's what I was going to get at here. So here's how I said it. And this is really important. First, steal this line. This line is gold, solid gold. Anytime you're transitioning from one part of your call to another part, anytime you're handling an objection, anytime you're doing anything in a cold call, say these words. Hey, you know what? That was actually the reason for my call. Hey, that's why I reached out to you today. Hey, you know what? That's actually why I gave you this call. That's why I called you. When it comes to this pain, do you already have a way to prevent the issue? Here's an example. Hey, that's actually for the reason for my call. Look, when it comes to seeing your most frustrated customer, do you already have a way to spot them out of the thousands of cases you get every month before it turns into a full-fledged fire drill?
Close any question too.
Exactly. And that's the key here, is I'm going for a yes or a no. I'm going for a closed-ended. Just like you said, it's not open-ended.
Yeah.
I get a lot of flack for this because some people are like, no, you got to ask them open-ended questions. No, you want to keep them on track with the thing that you do best and see, if I poke this nerve, does it hurt? Because if it hurts, then here, I have an antidote. I have a solution, something that's going to help you. And usually what I would hear is one of two things. Prospects either go, yeah. I do. And I would say, oh my God, that's amazing. I do this all day long. Well, I don't. I do it for an hour or two, 4 days a week. But, oh my God, I do this all the time. And I usually don't hear that. How are you doing that today? Get ready to get into competition at that point.
Yep.
Or an old school solution. Usually it was the old school solution. They'd be like, oh, we send out CSAT surveys. You know, the one that no one answers because no one really cares. It's the 1 to 5, frowny face, smiley face, thumbs up, thumbs down.
Yeah.
Like, that's how we know who's angry. And I'm like, yeah, wouldn't it be really nice to do that across all your tickets, even when people, the 97% of people don't reply to those? So I'm ready to handle that, right?
Yep.
So that can go, be ready. If they say yes, it's probably going to go into competition, or it's going to go into something that has to do with an old way of doing.
So if it's yes, you want to find out a little bit more about how they're doing that.
Bingo. And congratulate them, acknowledge, that's awesome. Make them feel good. That's a good opportunity to give them a pat on the back, right? But if they say no, be careful, because you don't want to make them feel like a dumbass. You don't want to make them feel like they suck at their job. So if they say, no, what do you mean? I don't, no, not really. That's where I go to the provocative question. So now I'm going to try to really say something that makes me feel like I'm at the end of 8 Mile rap battle. I'm about to drop.
So are you using the provoke question, I should say, even if it's a no or yes? I guess you're using, yeah. Okay.
Great question, actually. If they say yeah, I'm going to try to clarify what that means, and then I'll bring it right back to the provoking question.
Got it.
So if they go, yeah, I already have a way of doing it, how do you do that? Well, actually, we use your number one competitor, Feelings AI. Oh, cool. Really happy to hear that. Hey, look, that's why I was reaching out. There's the line. If you ever considered an alternative that would allow you to do that, whatever my differentiator is, this is where you're going to have to know your competitive differentiator, but it's going to include my provocative question in the differentiator.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, great question. And if it's no, hey, that's actually why I reached out. Anytime we hear that from folks, we like to say that we've got a better mousetrap. With technology, we can actually do that 100 times faster. Have you ever, and this is where I'm going to now transition. And if they say, no, I don't have a way of doing it, same thing, go right into the transition. And the thing about the provocative question is it really has to be a little bit chutzpah, like a little bit edgy, right? So you don't want them to feel like they're a complete idiot. However, you do want to say something that kind of says, hey, you're totally missing the mark here. You got to think about, like, so this is how I do it. That's actually why I reached out. Of course, there's that line again. Have you ever considered the name of my solution category? So in the case of Stylo, it would be called Sentiment AI.
Okay.
Right? To get value. And that value specifically should be solving for the pain. And then I don't stop here. I'm actually going to violate one of my own rules and ask 2 questions in a row. Which is, I then like to share an example or an analogy. Any kind of short analogy. I love analogies on cold calls because they paint a very vivid picture of what you're talking about. My analogy example was like the fire drill, right? So everyone knows what a fire drill means. I don't have to explain that. But if I say something like this, hey, it's actually why I'm reaching out. Have you ever considered Sentiment AI for something like real-time CSAT tracking? Kind of like frustration and urgency scores, but on every single ticket. So you can actually see where those fires are starting to burn before that full-fledged fire drill lands on your desk. Now I hit them with my open-ended question. Anything like that on your radar? The key to all of this, by the way, is going to be the curiosity tone. You have to really be authentically curious. You truly have to be willing to try to not say it like an a-hole, like a douchebag. Because if you say it really in like this, like, hey, dumbass, have you ever... they're going to feel bad and not want to engage with you. But instead, if you approach it with like, anything like that on your radar?
Yeah.
Furrow your brow. Really feel it in your face. Feel the like curiosity. You're super curious to know, like, do you know that this stuff is out there? Would you ever be curious to learn about it?
And the words, to me, the words are key here because the language you're using is simple language that a 5th grader could understand. I think most people, I know I used to do this. I used to say words on cold calls. I had no idea what they meant, but I thought they made me sound like smart. I had no idea what I was saying. Like the words that you're saying, anybody could understand them. Anybody. I think that's important.
If you guys are looking for a quick hack for this, open up ChatGPT, drop in your script, and say, please rewrite this for me as if I'm a fifth grader. It might take a few iterations, but you'll definitely get good examples done for you quickly. That's how I use ChatGPT to help me with script writing faster, is to simplify language. I'll also use it to analyze websites. You have to use Chat4 for that, but to analyze websites, and then I'll give it my whole probe provoke algorithm, and I'll say like, what's the problem they're solving? How would you describe it to a fifth grader? And it's pretty cool how like it'll do this. This is how I help new clients come up with messaging. So you can do some really fast message testing using AI too.
That's awesome. And I take it that when you ask that question, anything like that on your radar, you're probably getting a lot of questions back from the prospect asking for more detail. Is that what that does?
So let's stay focused on the goal. The goal of this approach, and I'll share my fun little visual for y'all here. The goal of this approach is to basically take the prospect through a straight line or a funnel. And like any good funnel, there's an ideal outcome at the end. So I have this straight line with different touch points. My opener, my permission, I'm going into my probe and my provoke. And by the end, I'm just trying to see, is this valuable? But then I'm going to go for my close after this. You cannot get to the close without all these steps happening before. There's really 4 necessary steps. It's truly your opener, which includes a permission-based opener, some sort of transition right into your probe, and then the provoke. Then you can either ask for time, ideally you're going to get it, or see that there's some sort of interest and start doing the follow-up game and get time that way.
And what I like about this is it really simplifies it. Like for me, like I'm an account executive, you guys know that. I'm not doing a ton of cold calls on a daily basis. So for me, if I was going back into an SDR role and I was making, 50 to 100 calls a day, like which is what I was doing, this for me, if I was doing that, really simplifies it. Because I think cold calling, people overcomplicate it with all these different strategies and techniques, and these are the couple things you need to do. They're going to say yes or no to, a close-ended question. And again, this helps keep the call on track to potentially, if it's a fit and they're interested, book a meeting.
Totally. And sometimes this is going to be the first touch point where they're not yet interested, but now you're on their radar. Yeah. Now you know something about them. My favorite part about this is you'll know that it went well when they do ask you questions, or they start to say something like, listen for these words. That's interesting. Anytime a prospect says the words, that's interesting, you hit something. Anytime they say, oh, how do you do that? Or at this point, at the end of the provoke, if they now ask for an email, that's an IOI, an indication of interest. Look for these IOIs throughout the call. Anytime you get them, you can go for a close right there and try to get it. In this case, it might be asking for time for a meeting. And as you know, my favorite way of asking for that.
Oh, yeah.
Based on what we talked about, would it be totally crazy if we found 30 minutes sometime, maybe on Monday afternoon or Tuesday morning, to chat about this further?
It's awesome, man.
Would it be a terrible idea? Would it be totally crazy? Would it be absolutely insane?
No oriented questions. No oriented questions. We talked about that quite a bit on this
questions.
Channel.
Yes. Our good old legendary god here of sales, Chris Voss. May we all worship him. Yeah, that's some little Chris Vossism right there built in. But sometimes they'll say no.
If they ask a question, that's showing interest.
Exactly.
And what are your thoughts on this? Like if they ask a question, respond to the question, keep it super short and tight, and then go for the close.
The worst thing you could do is not ask. It's the classic Wayne Gretzky quoted by Michael Scott in The Office. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Ronan, I used to do this all the time. The call would go great. I'd do everything right. I would handle a couple objections. I'd be on the phone for like 7-10 minutes.
Wow.
And at no point did I ask to meet. And I've talked about this on the channel multiple times. You just make the ask. You never know.
I experimented back years ago in my career with a different approach where you literally open the call with a very short pitch and an ask before you even hit a minute in the call. And the experiment was really just to see, like, if I went straight in for an ask, would people even say yes? You wouldn't be surprised that what would happen is the people would almost never say yes, and the ones who do would like ghost the meeting. So that wasn't a very valuable approach because there was nothing of interest, curiosity, or value transferred during the call. So you have to transfer something of curiosity. Prospect has to be willing to say my 30 minutes is worth at least answering this question that I have, which is like, that sounded interesting. How does he do it? Let's pull back to the 10,000 foot view real quickly. You have to be interesting enough in solving something that is valuable enough for the prospect to think it's worth 30 minutes.
Yeah.
If it's not, you don't have the right message. The prospect doesn't have the pain. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's wrong messaging. It could also just be that person's all set, and that's okay. But yeah, anytime prospects like, no, why don't you just send me an email? This is my favorite objection.
Oh yeah.
Favorite.
Oh
Matt,
yeah.
I'm more than happy to send you that email. But look, man, I've been doing this a long time. I'm still waiting to hear back from all those people I emailed. It always gets a laugh. And then I hit them with, would it be really absurd if we just found 30 minutes where if it's a waste of your time, I'll send you a thank you Starbucks gift card on my end. Like, we just meet for 30 minutes. I don't think it's going to be a waste of your time based on what we just talked about. And we'll go much deeper into how all this AI works or how my product works during that time. I'll even introduce you to an expert, this guy Matt at IBM. He's a wonderful AE.
Oh, yeah.
He can tell you all about what this product, Mass 360 something.
There it is. That's
I don't know what it is.
You got it. Yo, and Ronnie, I remember you posted this on LinkedIn, and we posted this video on the YouTube channel. You had a cold call recording where that objection came up, but the CEO of a company objected, I think, twice, 2 or 3 times, to meeting with you, but you were never annoying. You asked 3 times to meet, but you never came off annoying. It's because of your tone and the way the cold call was conducted, which gave you the right to ask a couple times to meet. Because it's going to take 2, sometimes 3 times to get that meeting booked on a cold call.
There's a company I'm a huge fan of called Second Body, which allows you to do what actors do. So how do actors, think about this for a second. If a blockbuster film can produce $100 million in revenue for producers and actors, I think Titanic was the first gangbuster movie of all time, and it did like $100 million in box office in the first week. So if that can happen where actors have the ability to pull you into the film and you think it's real, you feel like you're there, you're feeling their feelings, what are they doing that with? It's their tone. It's how they sound. And this is what actors do. This is why I like the tool Second Body. I'm friends with the founder, in full disclosure. He's a cool dude also a Clevelander. But he's built this tool to practice the way actors practice for sales. So if you want to pick your favorite influencer person, let's say you want to take my calls and you want to sound like me, you can run mine in your ear, speaking and it'll record it, and then you listen back to hear how well you matched the tone. So it's a tone practicing tool.
So Second Body, you said, right?
Yeah.
All right, I'll link Second Body in the description. Pretty cool, guys. Check them out. That's awesome, man. And I take it when you rate these scripts for people, it's not all that difficult to come up with the questions.
I've done it so many times that I actually really enjoy this process, and this is now what I'm actually offering. So this script that you saw today is free. Grab it, download it. It's yours. Yep. If you want me to write one for you and then go over how to deliver it together, that's now a service that I'm actually offering folks. And the reason I can do that so well is because I don't have your curse of knowledge. Most people who work at a company start to really believe and buy into all the marketing stuff that they hear, that they kind of lose track of like what actually makes sense in English and what a prospect might actually respond to. I don't have that curse of knowledge. So I have the fortune of being able to actually see a company from the outside, quickly synthesize the value, the pain point that's solved, and turn it into one of these scripts.
That's awesome. So if somebody wants to take advantage of that service, if they access the free guide, is that service on your website too, Ronan? Or
it'll be on the website. It'll be linked on the free script as well.
Okay.
And yeah, go ahead and grab the free script. Start there. Why not? See if you can use this video to write your own. I'd rather you save the money and just do it yourself and tell me that, hey, thanks so much. I get messages all the time. They're really lovely. It's wonderful. People thanking me for the script. They're like, wow, it's been game changer. I've been able to book more meetings. I'm more confident. All the time I'm hearing people say, yeah, I don't have problems with call openers anymore or actually getting through to the prospect and like
100%.
delivering a message that works.
Here's what I'll do. I'm going to write, based on your script, I'm going to write my script for the product that I sell at IBM, and I'll put it in the first comment, and you guys can either like it or hate it.
Ooh,
I
like it.
Let me know. You're not going to hurt my feelings. But Ronan, can't thank you enough for hopping on another video. I know we got some exciting other videos coming up in the future. Any last thoughts on the GOAT cold call script? The GOAT.
Look, I'll end it like I started it. There's no one solve for everyone. So if something about this doesn't feel right for you, doesn't seem to be working, that's okay. Hit me up on LinkedIn. If I can help you, I'll try to. If not, I'll point you in the direction of someone else. There always has to be a little bit of tweaking and customization, but 70, 80, 90% of it is usually exactly the same. Can I show up and provide some sort of insight, create some curiosity? There are rules, laws about how our brains work. I have to get your attention before I can pitch you and create some curiosity and interest. Once I can do that, then you're going to be ready to take action. And that's what we're trying to do with this script.
And the action that I want you to take today is to download that free script in the description. Do that before you subscribe to the channel.
Wow.
There you go.
There you go.
Ronan, thank you so much for hopping on, man.
Pleasure.
Appreciate it.